Alright, hello everyone, it's Raleigh, and welcome to the channel. As always, today we're going to be talking about some Guild Wars news. So as you guys know, I have been streaming lately. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff in my life. It's been very hectic, and there's been like a lot of stress, and I figured it wasn't that I couldn't stream, but it was that I figured if I'm not going to give you guys like the best content, or at least like enjoyable stuff where I go in. I don't want to sit there and, I tend to like rant about different things, and I didn't want to sit there and rant about my private life for like 2 hours into the stream, and just kind of. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do the grown adult thing and say, I'm gonna skip streaming while I'm dealing with all of these things going on, and then kind of return fresh once I have dealt with all of these things. To that end, I wanted to, because as a trade-off, I figured, well, if we're not streaming, but we're getting a lot of news, let's make a news video, right? Because I can do that, and that doesn't take as long. Now, like I said, nothing is ever easy for me, so I just want to tell you guys that this is my fifth attempt to record this video. For various numerous different reasons. All of the other attempts have failed, or have turned out to be not good, or turned out to be, or never, whatever, weren't what I wanted to do. So anyway, I hope that, hopefully this will all work out and this will be fine. But the reason I'm doing this video is because we got a lot of news for Guild Wars 2. And I want to start by talking about marketing, right? So marketing for Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet, as a whole, as a company, for a very long time was very lackluster, right from the get-go of the release of the game. For a long time, there was barely any marketing, there was barely anything done. Then with Path of Fire and Season 4, they started doing different ad campaigns that were very questionable. They were very lackluster in the sense that they didn't really portray the good side of the game, and it was just kind of like, why are you wasting money on these things, because this is not going to bring in people, yada yada yada. Skip forward until last year. I really think, and I'm still at the point where I kind of sit down and I not necessarily argue, but we have discussions about it on my streams all the time now, whether or not marketing really has picked up. But in my opinion, it really has. I think since Secrets of the Obscure, or since before Secrets of the Obscure, leading into Secrets of the Obscure, I think ArenaNet has really stepped up the game of marketing, and they've really just, they've really sat down and said, and figured like, hey, let's do some really good marketing. Let's do all these different things. They've done things that I have even suggested where, I've talked about it ad nauseum about, specifically before Janthir Wilds, there was a huge like discussion thing that I had, like many videos, many streams where we talked about this, where I said, you have a partner program, and 99% of these partners would be delighted to make a video about your expansion. If you give them like a little preview of it, they would love to make it. And then they ended up doing that. They ended up having like, what, 3-4 different people for Janthir Wilds go in and make some videos. And this has happened again. So they apparently did a press tour with a bunch of different, like, tabloid websites, whatever, right, news websites for MMOs and whatever, as well as do a couple of, I've seen only a couple of videos now from different, content creators and stuff, or press people or whatever, and kind of like highlighting a lot of things about the expansion, kind of talking about it. They got a little first look at it, and it's fantastic. I really love this. I think marketing has stepped in a fantastical, the thing is, ArenaNet only has such a limited budget, right? The idea that I had with using your partner program is because these people would be delighted to do these things, and you don't have to pay them for it, right? Like, you can even give them just like, giveaway codes for gems or whatever, right? And they'd probably be happy with that, even if, just that, like, I think a lot of people would be happy to make videos and talk about the new expansion and stuff. I really love this, and I think marketing has stepped in the right direction. The only thing, and some might say, oh, well, here's Riley nitpicking again, and he's never happy with everything, and la la la, because I know I did get that from a couple people early on when Janthir was announced and stuff. I've kind of voiced my couple of things there, but and I got some comments, rightfully so. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bash those people and say, oh my God, how dare you question me or whatever, right? But I like to be, and I always talk about this. I talk about it ad nauseum. I talk at all, I like to be constructive in my criticism, but I also like to be like level-headed on it and like down to earth. Like, I understand that ArenaNet doesn't have an endless budget like, maybe Blizzard or World of Warcraft or whatever, right? Like has for their game. They're not like a mega corporation, but they're also not an indie studio, right? They're like in between those two things. And I think to that end, there's a lot of things they can do. So what they have been doing, I think, is really, really good. I think it's really nice. They're very smart. They did the same thing with Janthir Wells, and I think it worked out really, really well. Where, if we're just talking specifically about marketing, they really ramped up as it got closer to the expansion release, and they're doing the same thing now, which is fantastic. I really, really like this. I think this is perfect. This is what should be done. But my one nitpicky thing is that they're not advertising these news. Like, just to tell you guys, like, if you go on the Guild Wars news website, they don't tell you about these news articles. So what I have pulled up right now, I have 2 German articles, and I have, and I'm sure there's others in other languages. I don't know. Those 2 articles were from the press tour, and then there was 2 videos made. I think one was from a gentleman that was part of the press tour, and then one of Laranity did a video. One of the big content creators and partners of ArenaNet did a video about homesteading. So I have those pulled up. That's what we're going to kind of talk about. And there's one more. There's another article by PC Gamer by Phil. We have talked about Phil, and it's Phil made the homesteading article for PC Gamer before, so he made another article talking specifically about the War Claw. But anyways, so I have those 5 things that we're going to be talking about. But the problem is that I didn't even know. First of all, I didn't know any of these things were coming out. They did retweet Laranity's tweet about the video she had made, but then none of the news articles are not on their Twitter, not on their news page, and none of that. I mean, it's not even that they needed to, make a news post for everything that came out, but maybe make a news post where they're like, hey, listen, all of these things are coming out. These are different languages of articles, and these are different things. I don't know if they're going to be doing that. Maybe they're kind of waiting for these things to come out. So I might be wrong. Maybe they're going to put something on the news thing, on the news website once a lot of these articles, like maybe they're giving the press people time to do the articles, and then they'll do a big post about it on their news page. But it's kind of weird that I had to go on like Reddit to find all of these things. So I have a feeling that maybe there's going to be coming something out. So here's my thing. If we're not getting the news page update with all of these things happening, then my advice to ArenaNet is to maybe do that and let your people know, right? Because I hate to have to go to Reddit in order to find all the news about Guild Wars 2. If these are coming out, then I apologize for, I mean, maybe falling into the in-between time where other press releases, articles, press articles like are coming out or whatever, and they didn't want to make a post until all of these things were out. And maybe I'm just like kind of, just judging them too early or whatever, right? So, but nonetheless, I really like where the advertisement is going. I really enjoyed this, and I will tell you guys, if there's more stuff coming out over this next week, like this is probably going to be my last video before the release, like news video. I mean, I'm not really a news channel. I don't really sit here and do this all the time. I do more structured videos. I've been working a lot on the regional lore videos, stuff like that. And I will be streaming, obviously, for the expansion, but news. I'm not going to sit here every day and like look at the news. So I'm going to incorporate all 5 of these things that I've just talked about into this video. If there's anything happening after the fact, after the release of this, you guys might catch my opinion somewhere on whatever, right? And we can talk about it during the streams and stuff as well. So if you guys want to hang out and talk to me, I will be streaming on the 18th. Just so you guys know, there is a giveaway going on right now on my channel for Janthir Wilds, an expansion code giveaway on my community page. If you go on there, just find the post that talks about the you will see it. It's a post about what's your favorite region in Guild Wars, and by commenting on that post, you will be entered into the giveaway. And the giveaway will close on the 18th. You do not have to watch the stream. You just have to be part. You just have to have a Discord account, because that's how I'm going to be giving out the code. And yeah, and it can be either for the Steam version or the regular version. I haven't bought the expansion yet. I will do that once I know who it is. And then whether they're Steam people or, regular, on the regular launcher or whatever, from the website, we'll find that out. So no worries about that. But yeah, anyways, so, and we can talk about like any other news. I have a feeling there's going to be other news, other articles coming out over these next couple of days. But I'm not going to cover every little thing, because I feel like a lot of specifically the press things, tend to kind of repeat themselves, as I've noted. So, like I said, this is my 5th attempt, so I've recorded 4 videos. I've spent about 3 to 4 hours now trying to record this exact same video, and so I've talked ad nauseum about all of these videos and all of these articles and stuff. And one thing that I've kind of realized is that a lot of specifically the press stuff kind of reiterates the same thing over and over again. They kind of have the same opinion about things. They kind of have the same idea and the same impressions that they've been getting. But nonetheless, I kind of wanted to give you guys my impressions on what I think they think, and we'll kind of go through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the 2 German articles. I'm going to skim through them, do like as we go along translation. I'm going to give you guys my kind of like opinion on things. And we'll move on to a couple of other things. There's one other thing that I kind of want to kind of talk about a little bit. There's a post. I have 6 tabs up right now that I'm looking at. And then we're going to be doing the PC Gamer, which is just a short little post about the Warclaw. And then we're going to go into Laranity's video, watch that. And then we're going to go into Bloom's video, who has probably the most in-depth of videos that I've seen so far. Very detailed. That's going to be super spoilerish. For those people that are not looking for spoilers, I will probably tell you guys to maybe not watch this video as a whole. But specifically, if you don't want visual spoilers, I will say that maybe you want to skip out on that very last part, because that is a big video that's very detailed. There's a lot of things to see, a lot of interesting things. It was really nice watching that video 4 times, and watching it for the 5th time. It's going to be really good. But there's always new things that I find every time I watch it. But it's going to be super interesting. There's a lot of really cool things to talk about. So let's just, with all that said, we're already like 13 minutes in, so let's get into it. Let me pull up the news article. So this is by buffed.de, one of the German MMO news websites or whatever. So let's kind of, like I said, I'm not going to word for word translate it. I'm going to give you guys a general impression on, like, I'm going to read an article, kind of give you guys what they're talking about, and there move on to the next thing. I'm not going to sit here and word for word translate it. Again, a lot of these news articles, just so you know, from what I've read, all reiterate kind of the same thing. So it's pretty much like they talk about this, and this news article talks about that as well, right? It's like kind of the same thing. They all had somewhat the same experience, because they were all, I think, pretty much in the same tour, hanging out and stuff, and they all got kind of to see the same things in the game. So I don't think we're gonna get that different of news, but nonetheless, it's nice to have it. So anyways, Guild Wars 2, the big preview of Janthir Wilds, super fun. The new expansion is super fun, is what the title says. Then they compare the mount, the Warclaw mount, to writing Torrent and Elden Ring. We're going to see that. There's actually, the reason they mention this is because during the press tour, one of the people actually talked about this, and we're going to kind of see. I think there's a moment in the video where you can actually see one of the press people talking about it. Oh, it's like Torin from Elden Ring, and the developers actually did confirm that that was one of the biggest inspiration to the double jump that the Warclaw is getting, the double jump mastery that the Warclaw is getting. The inspiration was Torin. So if you guys haven't played Elden Ring, you can kind of look at videos or whatever, or watch one of my streams where I ride around on Torrent or whatever. But apparently that was one of the inspirations for that, which is really cool. Talking about cool landscapes and world bosses coming back, and they played it before the release, and does it top? They're asking, does it top the Seekers of the Obscure, right? So they kind of talk about going through here, talking about Seekers of the Obscure, going to new adventures and areas, and we got invited to go to Lowland Coast and Janthir Sentry, and also the Homestead. So we're moving on from that. Nothing crazy there. So they talk about how you start the expansion with Astral Ward members in the wilderness of Janthir, on the mainland of Tyria, and north of Divinity's Reach, and west of the Bastion of the Penitent. And apparently, in the they talk about in here, the first instance is you have to tame some Warclaws. So apparently, we're gonna get our Warclaw tamed right off the bat. It seems to be in the first instance in Janthir, in the Lowland Shore. Might not be the very first instance of the expansion, but the first instance of the Lowland Shore that we're gonna get to see the Warclaw, tame the Warclaw, and get it have it become available to us, if you don't already have it, right? Talking about, there is a picture perfect landscape, and they're saying here, which was kind of interesting to me, definitely newer, quote unquote, and nicer than Janthir Wilds. So that's kind of nice to hear. And we're going to see the videos have been really, really good. I've been very impressed with the environments, I will say. Specifically, the forest parts of it have been looking really nice, so I'm very excited. Talking about an expedition by the Astral Ward, Warclaw, yada, yada, yada. Talking about how, with the help of the cuddly, they call it cuddly, Lowland Coden, they're taming the Wild Roses World Mount. And it just talks about how with the initial mission, you actually, and into the expansion, you unlock the mount. So, and that's pretty much it there. And then they go to talk about the most important info, which this was I think this might have been the only article that talked about this. So they're saying one of the most important info for all the rangers is the new, and they're saying the new pet for the expansion is going to be a juvenile Warclaw. So rangers are getting a juvenile Warclaw. So while we are riding a big variant of it, a smaller one will help you in battle, which is really, really cool. But one interesting thing is they're talking about the first. So we're probably going to get more. I don't know if it's going to be with the initial, but I think Secrets of the Obscure did that as well, right? Like we got, like, with every major release that we got a pet. Every update after the initial, didn't we get new pets or something? So it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to get definitely some, but it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to get, right? We're going to get a Warclaw, but what are some other things that we're going to get? So yeah, Juvenile Warclaw for the Ranger. So get ready for that. I'm super excited for that personally, because I like I just like variants in pets. I think there's so many new pets that they can add. And I like having something like a Warclaw as a pet. I think that'd be really cool. So anyways, so they go on to talk about the Lowland Coden and how they're the plushy cousins to the Shiver Peaks version right here. And and they talk about how they live together peacefully, not like the Norn, you know. They don't really have like they don't work about or they don't worry about like their personal legends, like doing stuff like that. But nonetheless, they do like doing competitions and fighting in the arena. So we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit. And then there's another event apparently where you have to dance with the Kodan around a fire. We're gonna see that in one of the videos. Really cool. It's kind of like the same like the yoga poses that we get during the Omnitas meta, but it's a little different because apparently the circles that you have to do it in, they kind of move around. So there's a little bit of movement. You can't just like you don't just sit there and press like one button and kind of do it. You kind of have to like go around and do different things, which is super fun. But they go to kind of talk about how the first map is kind of a more calmer. There's no world-ending threat. There's no like overarching meta event. There's none of that. It's just pretty much closer to like a core map. They talk about how it's very calm and cozy, and you kind of just hang out a little bit and do like all these like little events like the arena fight and the dancing and yada yada yada, those types of things. And you know it's just that's pretty much the first map is kind of like that, but we're gonna see a little bit of a combat thing with the arena and stuff, so I think they'll talk about that in a minute. So then after the dance event, we talk about the Spearmaster that helps us getting the Warclaw, that helps us tame the Warclaw. I'm guessing she must be the one as well. This is definitely a female based on the IN at the end, just so you know. So it's a female. Thorn Valley, Thorn something, that helps us capture the Warclaw, but I think she's probably going to be the one that teaches us about using the spear as well, because remember that's part of the mastery line as well for the Kodan. And they kind of talk about how there's also like the arena, so you can fight. There's different like skills being used. I think she uses the skills of the ranger, the spear skills of the ranger, and oh, I don't know why it's like anything on the side here is an ad. So if I click just anywhere outside of the blue area, it's open as the ad, which is very dangerous. But yeah, so they kind of talk about the arena fight and how you know you have to like it's fun and challenging at the same time. So that's part of the arena fight. I don't know if that's I'm thinking that's her in the arena here, and we have to fight her. I love the spear that's kind of like stuck in the ground. That's kind of cool because it talks about her right here. And then they're talking about the Warclaw 2.0, saying that, well, so they're kind of saying that it's, you can, they compare the map to Grothmar Valley from Iceboot Saga, where there's just like no big overarching meta event, but it's just kind of you hang out. You go around the map, you kind of explore the map with your Warclaw and find treasure. Because remember, we can sniff out treasure. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what that is, because none of the videos and none of the articles actually go into details of what is really like what are we finding with this treasure hunt, with this like sniffing out treasure. Like, is this going to be random like coin, random items? Is it going to be something like some kind of specific resource that we need to make a legendary, like something like that, right? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see what it is that we really find. But yeah, they kind of talk about how it's all about like the first map is kind of like about exploration and hanging out with your Warclaw and finding different, you know, having just a good time. It's like I said, it's very close to like the core maps where you don't have big overarching metas. A lot of them have sorry, there's a train coming through. Not a lot of them have these overarching meta events, right? Even in the core maps and stuff, but there are many of them that don't really have it, and even if they have like a world boss or meta event, it doesn't affect the entire map. Like if you look at something like Queensdale, for example, like I can be running around, you know, like 70% of the map and not even realize that the Shadow Behemoth is attacking God's Lost Swamp, right? So it's going to be in that sense, like, you know, you can kind of think of the arena fight as being like maybe close to like a world boss or something. I mean, she looks to be like a legendary. We're gonna see that in the video. And I don't know what the rewards for it are, but you can apparently just go around the map and explore, which is really cool. We're gonna see it's a very vertical map. There's a lot of verticality, so it's gonna be interesting to see. You know, if we have something like Torrent, right? Remember in Elden Ring Torrent, like what's the way to deal with verticality in Elden Ring? Well, it's the spirit springs that you have where you can jump with Torrent up these air drafts to higher levels. Are we going to have something like that as well? Is the Warclaw going to be able to take like updrafts? You know, can I jump? Like, do I get like updraft, like a higher jump through updrafts or something? Like, how do I reach higher levels with my Warclaw? Right? Again, we talk about Sky Scale versus Warclaw. You know, why am I using the Warclaw over the Sky Scale? Give me a reason. Because even with these jumps, and we're going to see later on, there's an article, the PC Gamer article talks about how Phil, in that article, he kind of tried to build around the jump, and he got to the point where you can jump 17 times with the Warclaw, but it doesn't make you gain air. You kind of stay in the air, so you like hop on the same level in the air, but with the Warclaw, you can actually ascend higher, right? We can like latch onto walls and then recharge and then like go higher and do that again and again and again. So, you know, on a vertical map, the Sky Scale still kind of wins out. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how the Warclaw functions with the jumps and yada, yada, yada. Then they talk about how you have to use your spear skill, your spear throwing skill. I'm guessing it's the chain pull ability or something, through like a parkour, like a like a apparently in the arena, and we're gonna kind of see that in Bloom's video. Like I said, Bloom's video is very in detail on a lot of these things. We're gonna see a lot of visual for that, but they specifically in that video they talk about how you know, or they show how there's this little like labyrinth set up with like different targets you have to hit on your Warclaw and then maneuver through this little labyrinth as part of an event, which is really cool. And again, I clicked on that, opened that up. But yeah, so that's kind of talking about the first map there. Then yeah, so they kind of talk about the mobility of the Warclaw with the triple jump that you have. Um, yeah, and again, comparing it to Torrent from Elden Ring, and that's apparently not a that's not a coincidence. They specifically they specifically said that this is inspired by Torrent's jumping abilities, and so apparently so I guess what they're doing here, so it sounds interesting. It says after the Raptor, the Springer is going to be unlocked free as well. So you know how like you can unlock the Raptor in the core game now? I guess they're doing the same thing with Springer. Springer is going to become available as well. Which apparently is just a small bonus. I think that's what they're saying. Yeah, so I think that's what they're saying. So look out for that. Springer becoming available for the core game people, the people that don't have any of the expansion, that don't have Path of Fire. Apparently, they're gonna get the Springer as well. Then they talk about the second. So they're gonna talk about the Titans. So the Titans are returning. These are the Titans. We're gonna see that a little bit more in detail. This picture is not very indicative of what we're going to see. Oh, I want to go through these pictures as well in a minute. We're going to look at the pictures at the end once we're through all of this. There's a lot. Oh my god, there's a lot. So let's kind of hurry through some of this. Where were we? Right here. So in the second area, we're going to see a Titan World Boss. They're the same from the time of Guild Wars 1, or the same creatures from back then. Greer, this is Greer. We're gonna see Greer in the video. He's one of the world bosses. There's apparently 3 And for the world boss to succeed, you have to kill 2 of them, is apparently what I got from all of this. And something about amber. That's amber inside of them. There's something about amber going on there. So then they're talking about the bloodstones of Janthir. So Greer tries to suck the energy out of the bloodstone. That's what he's kind of trying to do there. And you have to use your war claw to get the armor off of him with your war claw with the spear. And they have a new quality of life feature where it tells you, we're gonna kind of see that again in the video. So a lot of the green circles that we get during like boss fights and stuff nowadays, where a lot of people, where it's kind of like, oh, everyone stand on this one spot or whatever, has a new icon above it, right? It shows you, it's like a little green icon with like different like little people on it or whatever, and that kind of tells you like, oh, we need people here. So that's been updated. Then they talk about the homesteads. We've talked about the homesteads so much now. I don't know if there's really anything new in there. We're gonna see. I want to say Laranity's video is probably the best out of all of these when it comes to like news and information, because we're gonna actually see it's a more visual thing, anyways. So a lot of people have been asking for 20 years now for housing in the world of Guild Wars, and Dream is coming true. It's a cool feature. Yada yada. We get the doorways. They kind of talk about these really cool doors that you can have to invite your friends to go into it. And your mounts are waiting in the stalls there, and you can give them snacks and pet them and whatever. And you can have your resource node to in there are the cats that we've collected, and whatever, right? So we already know all of this. There's nothing great, nothing new. The decoration is huge. There's a lot of different objects, and you can change the size of different things. You can do all these different things. You can build like high up, and there's a lot of like, you can build a tree house, or apparently they've already seen tree houses. As you guys can see, we're gonna see that a little bit. This happened apparently during the press. There was someone build like a staircase of mushrooms up, and there's like an icy thing as well. We're gonna see a close-up of that later. We might even in these pictures when I look through it. And then they have introduced a new NPC that can change it from night to day. We're gonna see that as well. I will talk about that a little bit later on. Like I said, I'm just kind of skimming through this. And 800 decorations are coming. We already know this. It's going to be material sync, and and you transform your materials into resources like homestead fiber in order to make different things. Laranity, they're talking about how Laranity has a new video about this, which we're going to look at. So then they talk about new weapons and armors that we're getting. So there's a new so there's a different like different armor sets or whatever, different designs, and apparently they were reminded of the Boreal weapons from Icewood Saga. There's a full moon weapon set that you can apparently get for anyone that wants to have like a lunar look or whatever, right? For anyone that has Astralaria, a kind of it's complementary to that, so it's kind of looks like that, which is really cool. Then they have a picture gallery of the armors. We're gonna look at that. One of them is only available. This one right here, this armor set. It's a polychromatic armor, I guess, that is only available through World vs. World. And there's also the Titan plated set, which is like perfectly themed for fighting Titans in Janthir. And Okay, yeah, so there's just a giveaway or whatever. So that's kind of what they're talking about. Let's go through some of the pictures. I do like looking at the pictures. So here we see the the town of the Kodan with the night sky. I really love these new armors. I really love the models of the Kodan, the lowland Kodan. I think they're really cool. They look really nice. We get a close-up of a house here. I can't blow up these pictures. The Aurora Borealis is super fun. I really love the new night sky. I love this. I think it's really cool. It kind of highlights a little bit about how magical Tyria really is, right? Tyria is such a magical place. There's magic everywhere, and whether it's been, it's filtered or whatever through Oreen or whatever it is, right? There's magic in the world, right? We know about this. We know, there's living gods and there's all these magical aspects. There's actual, all the professions use magic, but it's really cool. So they talk about the night sky is absolutely magical. They talk about it. It looks really cool. We see really cute, like a baby lowland Coden. It's kind of, to me, those are always been weird, right? Because this looks like just a shrunk down version of the Norn model, and then just a bear suit like put on it. So it looks a little like unsettling, but it also looks really fluffy. So it really depends on if they've done anything to the movement. If they're gonna look just like miniature Norn, it's gonna be a little awkward, but I like them. I think they're cute, whatever. Anyways, part of the dance event here. So apparently this person was, or one of these two was like a ranger. So there's this is a juvenile warclaw that's hanging out with them there as one of the pets. And they're doing the dance event in the thing, and we're gonna see there's a little bit of a close-up more of the dance event. One of the Kodan is dancing here with a bunch of the press people in the back. We've already talked about the arena here. So we see Greer here, one of the world bosses, a Titan. This is what the Titans, just for you guys that don't know, this is close to what the Titans look like in Guild Wars 1. Titans are creatures from Guild Wars 1, but we're going to get a little bit more info about that later on as well, but that is what he looks like. This is part of the boss fight. This is the phase of where his break bar is happening. So while his break bar is happening, he spews out all of these things, and you break his bar in order to make him stop doing that. And then after you break his bar, you actually have to get on your sky scale. You have to throw your spear. We're gonna actually see this in action later on, just so you know. But you throw the spear and you do it and the other German article actually compares it to like doing the AT-AT for Star Wars, on when they were on Hoth, the battle on Hoth, where they use the ropes and then they kind of go around the AT-ATs and they trip them, right? It's the same thing. So you have to throw your spear, and then as you guys can see, they run around it and they bind the Titan, and he falls down, and then you can do like big damage to him. Yeah, you guys can kind of see there's lines in between the legs now as they're passing around, like running around in circles around him, which is really, really cool. So that's a mechanic that we're going to see happen. We see one of the doorways. I will talk about that during Laranity's video. I will go a little bit into detail. We see more of the housing. There's some the sawmill, like outside the sawmill here, and this is how you can place them. So you can see all the things that you can place. You can get rid of like all these different things, right? And they kind of show that. So yeah, and then we go down. This is really cool, the Kodan and the armor. This is one of the armor sets. Not the golden shine. That's an item that we already have in game, but just the actual armor itself is what we're getting. We're gonna see. This is the I think this is what they're talking about, the polychromatic one that we're gonna get. It's kind of like glass stained, and you can color those things. We're gonna see it in the video. Like a lot of people have them like blue, the little windows, right, in the armor or whatever. Then we get like this bony armor. See, there's actually other colors. So they have it like blue and turquoise kind of colored, and green a little bit in there, where this person has it like green and red. So you can change that. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous armor. I really, really love this. I think it's very unique. And it's very unique in the way that it looks unique, but it's not overly like bam. Because I've talked about this, how I hate that people look like supernovas. I hate armor sets that are super glowy all the time. I use a couple of pieces here and there, but I don't use whole sets that are just like everything glows. I really hate that. So this is subtle enough while looking unique enough to me that I really, really love this. So yeah, so we get a close-up of that armor. So those are some of the armor sets we get to see. All right, so that was the first article. Let's go to the other German article. I'm gonna again kind of skim through this. I don't think this is just as long, but anyway, so we're gonna kind of skim through this because this reflects the exact same thing that we've already seen. So we're gonna kind of go through. All right, so they talk about all the things that they were able to see. It was a little preview. They got to see the war claw, the new regions, the new weapon type, the spears, the housing, so on and so forth. They talk about the world boss. They talk about how the renowned hearts, we're going to talk about this a little bit. The renowned hearts are a little bit different. They've been changed. So we are getting renowned hearts, but they're a little bit different. And then they did not get to try out the raid or the 50-man convergence. So moving on from that, like I said, I'm trying to get through this. We're already at 22 minutes and we have like God knows so much more to go through. So anyways, so they talk about the expansion, talking about how the alliance, they want to get new allies for the alliance, for the Tyrian alliance. That's kind of the whole goal of what we're doing. We already knew this, and we are dealing with Vanak, who was one of the Astro Ward members. That's going to be back in the story. That kind of introduces us to some of the stuff. They're going to join us early on, and they deal with helping us in the lowland Coden gaining the Warclaw mount. We already kind of knew that. Yeah, so they talk about you unlock the Warclaw mount, the PvP mount. It's not really PvP, it's a World vs. World, which is a PvP mode, but, you know, I don't know. Pandantic or whatever. Warclaw. I'm trying to see if there's like anything new, really. Apparently, it's very mobile, and there's something interesting. So you get a lot of extra jumps in the air based on your endurance limit, right? And it's super mobile, and you also don't take any fall damage when you're on it, which has only ever been a thing with what? The Springer, the Skimmer, the Sky Scale, the Griffin, you know, but the Jackal, the Raptor, all of those, you know, the Beetle, like all of those, they do get fall damage when you fall very far down. Apparently that is now going away for the Warclaw. And so they talk about that. So that's really cool. No more fall damage, so we can jump off of giant heights with our Warclaw and be just fine. I think the Warclaw, just based off of that, I've told you guys before that I really hate flying over everything with my sky scale. I'm one of those people, I like to enjoy the environments and kind of go through them and stuff. So the Warclaw might become my personal favorite mount, not because it's the new fun thing to use, but the usability has been increased because I get double jumps, so I can kind of move around a little bit, and also I can leap off of giant, like, whatever cliffs and not die when I land on the bottom. You know, I always hate that I have to, like, jump off somewhere, like with a raptor, and then I have to, like, you know, unmount midair, go on something that doesn't die when I fall down, and then change back, you know, stuff like that. So it's super fun. And you can sniff out treasure. We kind of talked about that earlier. And then they talk about how there's more combat things where you can drop enemies to the ground with some of the new things. There's a lot of flexibility and mobility. And I think, and they're talking about how that's going to help with the new events and the convergence. So then they talk in this article, because like I said, I've already read this article, but in this part of the thing, they talk about how the first area is very cozy. You know, there's a dance party with the Coden, and you have to collect. Apparently, there's an event where little baby Warclaws have escaped, and you have to like capture them and bring them back. An event that we have seen since you know since Path of Fire or whatever. We've seen stuff like that. So we're gonna have to round them up and bring them in, and there's a dance party, so really interesting. It's a very cozy feeling. There's no you know, cozy vibes. They talk about it. There's no overarching meta event and no dangerous world boss. So it's a lot like kind of just chill out, hang out, learn about the Coden culture, talk to people, you know, stuff like that. Kind of just like explore the new region. And then they talk about the hearts. The hearts apparently are going to be repeatable, but they have like different tiers of them. So as you like do the hearts more often, like whether you complete them multiple times or whatever, there's like different tiers and you get more rewards. So my question is, when it comes to that, like what are the rewards? Because usually when you do hearts, it's coin and karma, right? Is that the only thing we're gonna get? Or we get like the more we complete it, are we gonna get more coin and more karma? Because is that really incentive for us to do that? For some of us, it might be, right? Like, I might still be inclined to do that, depending on how much coin I get out of it. But, um, I would like to maybe see some, like, resources come in there, other resources, something that's specific to, like, the new essences, for example, right? The Cryptus essences, the Rift essences that we've been getting through Secrets of the Obscure are going to be changed for the new legendary. Like, are we going to be able to earn some of those through the heart quests, through the renown hearts? Like, is that going to be one of the things that we're going to see added in there? Maybe as the very last tier, we're going to see some of those. Would be interesting to see what, because it talks about new rewards, to get new rewards to talk about. So what are these new rewards, right? Then they talk about the arena, how you have to challenge a boss there. You can, one thing that I didn't talk about, so in the arena battle, and we're going to see this as well again in the video, video that Blooms did, but in that arena, you can either partake in the battle, right, and like regular fight, or you can actually sit in the audience and applaud the people, and the more they applaud, that gives people in the fighting like a boost or whatever. So if you're not really inclined to like fighting, or want to kind of see how the battle goes or something, or whatever it is, want to support your friends, whatever, you can sit there and you can kind of cheer for them, which is interesting to see how that plays out. What if 90% of the people just decide to sit in the stands, and then you have 10 people fighting the boss and they can't do it? Is there some kind of, is there a punishment for that? Or is it like, what's really, like, not that there is ever going to be a punishment for that, but, it's going to be interesting to see that the dynamic of how the people kind of split up. Because I think most people are going to be want to be in the fight, but like, it's going to be interesting to see how many people are going to be in the crowds, cheering on, yeah, so moving on, then they go to Janthir Sentry, which the other article called it Synthry. I'm not sure why. I guess they got it wrong with Janthir. But Janthir Sentry, they talk about the Titans and the world boss that we have there. And yeah, just kind of you have to attack, blah, blah, blah. They talk about the mechanic. Right here, where they talk about the AT-AT, right, with the spear. So you have to break the bar by defeating enemies. There's apparently different ways. You can either do it by, so in order for the break bar to show up, is you either have to defeat a bunch of the enemies that are around, smaller enemies, the ads that are around, or you have to get to like 75, 50%, 25%, like one of those, right, like a threshold, and then the break bar comes up. Then you break the break bar, and then after the break bar, you can use your spear and then walk around it and then like bring them to the ground and apparently do like a ton of damage to it. That's kind of how it's going to work. So they talk about the housing in here. This is, just, yeah, so just like the Warclaw, you kind of get it really early on during the story. One of the early story steps kind of gives you that, and then you can summon a magical door in order to get to the homestead. You can build things in there, blah, blah, blah. We already know this. There's a sawmill, a mine, and a farm, and you kind of have to build out on it. You can do different decorations, and you can build different things, and you can turn into like a bee. We've seen this before, and decorate stuff. We're going to see that in Laranity's video, how you can do that. So nothing newsworthy there, I don't think. For some people, like for so there's a lot of things. Apparently you can earn like armor sets and weapon skins based off of this, I guess, or like based on collections, it sounds like, and resource nodes and blah blah blah, whatever. I don't think, again, then they talk about the housing feature that they're looking for is housing expeditions that Wildstar had. Apparently something that they're missing. I'm not really sure, you know, something you could do with friends to, you know, or by yourself to gain exclusive decorations. I don't know what that is. I didn't play Wildstar, but I heard the housing system there was really amazing. And people are kind of looking like, you know, they want something like that. Yeah. Oh, they're talking about Guild Wars 3 is coming. Very interesting. I wonder where that's what that's based off. Okay, so and then they give their final impressions on it. It could be let's see. They're talking about it's kind of a shame. The biggest shame is that the shame, one of the things that they kind of think is a shame is that the biggest feature of the expansion is not like a brand new thing, but it's the War Claw that kind of has been expanded on. That's like their favorite thing of the expansion, but they're kind of like, you know, it's kind of sad that it's not like a new thing introduced, but it's just something that's been upgraded from, you know, the core game, from something that we already have. It's interesting about finding the different, yeah, so the first part of it is very cozy and it's an adventure, it's an introduction with the Warclaw, blah, 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 all this stuff. Something about collectors, but they have, yeah, and for the housing, for the homesteads or whatever, they're saying in this article, like, this is not necessarily what I'm looking for. They kind of get that there's a lot of stuff you can do with it, but they're kind of like, you know, am I going to spend a lot of time? And I think a lot of people have been talking about this, myself included. Am I really going to spend that much time on these things? I don't know. We'll have to see. But so that was the one article. The other article, I mean, the German article. Again, nothing breakthrough, nothing crazy. Talk about the same thing that we've already seen. So I kind of skimmed through it. You know, I'm not going to translate it word for word. So, but we'll move on. You know, I kind of wanted to touch on it and see if there, you know, there's a couple interesting things to talk about. Then apparently we got the map is kind of revealed here. So based on the position, we have seen this map for the homestead. So they kind of look at it and they kind of position it over here based off of this. I would actually position that further over here. Like I would think this is over here. This looks more like this part looks like this part in the middle or something. Like I would maybe move it over. They're kind of going based off of how the rivers are moving, but that doesn't quite align with this part down here. So I don't really know where this goes, but it's somewhere around here, you know. But this is where we get to see the map. They kind of have pieced this together based on where the river flows. So this is based off of the press tour that they had. So this is what the map looks like. It looks like the map expands further across these bridges. So this is only the first part. So we start out down here at the Astra Ward camp. Then we make our way all the way to the town. This is the town. And then we move across further here. And I'm guessing over here is somewhere our homestead. And the rest of the map is somewhere along that way as well. So that's kind of the map that we see there. And cool. We see that. Then we get Phil Savage's article, which is really cool. He, like I said, he was the gentleman that did the really cool article that I really enjoyed about the housing, the homesteading article that he did for PC Gamer, and it was really informed, and I thought he did really well. So he kind of talks about, again, it's a really short article. There's not a lot talking about, but he kind of talks about the biggest thing for him is the war clause. So he kind of talks about the war clause in this one. So he highlights a couple of things. There's nothing interesting here. Talks about the homesteading, blah, 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 how he spent some time. There was an article he already did, right? How he's part of the press tour. And the new maps look nice. A rustic haven for a new faction of bearfolk, blah, 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 right? So hundreds, but is this game designed to be played? This is a game designed to play for hundreds of hours. So one thing that we'll see kind of reoccurring, and that's something that a lot of people have voiced as well, is the replayability of it, right? We don't get any endgame stuff. So the first map doesn't have a big overarching meta or a world boss, and the second map has like 2 or 3 world bosses, which 2 of them need to be fought or defeated at the same time for it to succeed or whatever. But that's it, right? We're not getting convergences. We're not getting rates until a 3 months from now. So where's the replayability? What's the point in bringing us back to these maps? We don't have the legendary spear yet, the legendary back piece. All of the stuff is coming later on. So what's keeping us on these maps, playing these maps, doing this content, right? Are the achievements gonna be very interesting and in depth, and big collections that we have to do, where we have to like go to different areas, talk to different people, do different various things in order to unlock different weapon skins, armor skins, that type of stuff. And a lot of people we will see talk about how homesteading is kind of the end game for the next 3 months. It sounds like ArenaNet is kind of aiming for like, hey, we want you guys to spend like 3 months in your homesteads and build something up, and then we're gonna give you other stuff to work towards. So that's one of the things. The real meat of Guild Wars 2 map is in the flow of its events and the desirability of the wards it offers. The real question is whether I'll still have reason to visit in 3 months, hell, even 3 years' time. Sure, I'm excited to explore these new spaces and to properly attempt the second map's world boss meta with a proper number of players. Beyond that, though, I have no deeper analysis to offer. So they're kind of questioning, what's the whole point? Once I've gone through all of these events a couple of times, is there a specific reason for me to go back and do these things? Is there a reason for me to go back to the Coden village and hang out with the lowland Coden? Like, is there a reason for me to do that? Or am I just going to hang out in Janthir Sintry and wait for the world boss to respawn so that I can get whatever they have to offer, right? So that's kind of interesting. It's warranted. The worry, I think, is warranted for sure. But he's here to talk about the Warclaw, as he says, right? They give us he gives us a background to the Warclaw, and it's going to become available now in PvE. We get another look at one of the early eras. We've seen many different versions of this shot. We've gotten it from like over here positioned, from over here looking at the house. We've seen this specific location now numerous times. And then he talks about, right, how the double jump is useful, but does it compare to the sky scale, right? Like, the extra jump is impressive in a world where you can already fly short distances, but then I played it and realized it wasn't just a double jump. Your Warclaw's mid-air jump ability actually has 3 charges, but more importantly, it's tied to the endurance bar and actually regains energy while you're in the air. And he was able to pull off with the Mount Energy Booster 3 installed and the Bond of Vigor from Season 4. He was able to get 17 consecutive jumps. So let's open this up. He kind of shows this off. He does 17 jumps, so we're going to kind of look from the beginning. So he said, actually, in the article, I think he's going to say that, but yeah, so he jumps and keeps jumping, as you guys can see. So he keeps jumping, and if you time it right, you can kind of keep going in the air, and just keep jumping, and as you guys can see, you can maintain, you don't really gain air. I guess if you use your jumps really quickly in succession, you can gain some air. So if I go like bounce, bounce, bounce and not wait for my energy to recharge, right, I can probably gain some height. But yeah, so he got a lot of air time there, and that was kind of exciting for him, which was fine. I really like it. Like I said, I think the Warclaw is going to become my favorite mount. Just because of that, just because of how I'm still grounded and I'm still in all of the content that's happening, but I don't, but I still have a lot of mobility and freedom to like jump up on a ledge or whatever, right? I really love that. I think the Warclaw is shaping up to be an all-around really good mount with these new things. Janthir Wilds, plenty of interesting things. The first map won't feature a wide meta event chain. Instead, Renown Hearts are returning in a tiered format that promises more rewards and even changes to the world as you move up the ranks. So we're getting more rewards. So it's a tiered format on these new hearts, and apparently changes to the world as you move up in ranks. So there's going to be maybe different NPCs happening, maybe different things. It's going to be really interesting how these new Renown Hearts, I love that they're taking, again, one thing that they talked about was taking older existing systems and reiterating and improving on them, right? And I love this because the Renown Heart system was one of those systems that revolutionized, and I will call it that, revolutionized questing, right? For many, many, many years in MMOs, it was always like you go to a quest dude, you talk to him, a giant page of whatever weird story is happening, like, oh, there's centaurs attacking, right? That was always their biggest example. And I can see Colin Johansson in my mind right now talking in the manifesto trailer about how, like, oh, centaurs are attacking the town, but they're just kind of standing in a field and not really doing anything. And then the quest tells you, like, go kill 10 centaurs, right? And you go kill 10 centaurs, and then you, like, return and you get your reward, right? So they introduced events to actually have these moving things happen in the world as you are around. You know, things get destroyed, buildings get destroyed, things get taken over, you know, outposts become unavailable for you to teleport to, blah, blah, blah. That was the event system. But at the same time, the Renown Heart system also revolutionized because you can go in, you don't have to, as soon as you walk into the area, you are now in the Renown Heart area. You don't have to talk to an NPC. Just pops up on your screen and you go around and you do that, which is still to this day kind of revolutionary for MMOs, because even MMOs that have come out in the last like 5 years, you know, there haven't been very many. A lot of them have failed, a lot of them have been canceled, but the few that have been coming out have the regular questing system. A lot of them have the regular questing system, including things like Final Fantasy. I mean, I don't know how the newer expansions for Final Fantasy 14 are, but as far as I know, it's still kind of like, hey, you go to an NPC, it's not voice acted, right? You have a giant thing, you know, a giant paragraph of text that you have to read, and they tell you, oh, go over here and do something, and then return, right? And you have to like walk around and run around. ArenaNet with Guild Wars 2 has revolutionized this and made this really cool. So I love that they're improving on that system. They're improving on Renown Hearts, and I really hope that this lands with the people so that we can see in future expansions more of this, right? If we can make Renown Hearts something that's like not just because they've kind of fallen to the wayside, because they kind of are like they were a way to level up, right? For in the core game, you know, they were the replacement of quests. But if we can kind of combine them with the like expansion specific rewards that help us gain resources towards our new legendaries and stuff, I can really see Renown Hearts come back as a staple, as a huge staple of Guild Wars 2, and just really be like, yeah, Renown Hearts are still a very important part of the game, but now in the expansions they kind of work a little bit different. Instead of just getting coin and karma, you work towards your next legendary, and you want to go do these tiered Renown Hearts because they're not really quests, right? They're not as tedious as quests. They are kind of the same thing as quests, but again, I don't have to go talk to someone. I don't have to read a huge text. It literally just happens in the world. You know, I can walk around the world and these things are happening in front of me. So I really, really love that. Raids are returning in the first major update with the convergence. We've already talked about this. And they're hoping, you know, the Seekers of the Obscure kind of struggle to stick the landing, which with the storytelling. So they're hoping it's too early to answer these questions, he says, but it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, what the future holds, right? Like, is it going to be what's going to happen with Janthir Wilds? I really hope that they have learned a lot of things to myself. So anyways, so thanks to Phil for that. I always I really enjoy reading his stuff. It's really short and to the point and really nice. So next up we have, we're going to be talking about these videos now, right? So we have Laranity's video, which we're going to look at first. It's a shorter video, but I wanted to still show it. So we're going to kind of do that video. We're going to kind of watch it, and I'll comment as I see fit, you know, whatever, nothing crazy, but we're gonna kind of do that, and then we're gonna go into Bloom's video. So let's kind of watch this video
is
here.
Sponsored by ArenaNet. Thanks, ArenaNet. Hey everyone, it's Laranity, and as many of you know, I have been incredibly excited for Janthir Wilds, the upcoming Guild Wars 2 expansion. It's coming out next week, and it's adding player housing, which has been requested by the community for years. ArenaNet recently gave me the opportunity to try out these homesteads early, and today I want to talk to you about it and show you how it works. As part of the expansion story, you get your very own homesteads. You can spawn a door that takes you there anywhere in the open.
Alright, so I'm gonna pause it here. So again, thank you to Laranity and thank you to ArenaNet. I really love videos like this. Like like I said early on, I really love this. I love to do something like that, obviously, but it's just really nice to have content creators out there that have so much passion. Like Laranity has such passion for the game that I love seeing them going in there, because you can really see how excited they are to try out these things and do these things. So really cool. So props to her and props to ArenaNet for doing this and stuff. But yeah, so let's pause it here for a second. So we have this conjured doorway, right? And it's gonna be like the big talk for homesteads has been for a long time now that a lot of people are thinking like, oh, they're gonna sell new homesteads, hopefully, in the gem store, right? Or like we're going to be getting them with new expansions or whatever it is, right? Here's my thing though. Are homesteads going to be bound to the doorways, or are these going to be separate things? Can they do gem store skins for your doorway and say, hey, we want to have, like, I don't know, an exalted looking golden gate that appears before you and it like opens its doors like that? Or can we have something that's I don't know, like Primordus themed, where it's like this, out of the ground this magma door shows up and there's like magma, lava spewing out or whatever, right? And the store opens up, right? Like, are we gonna have those separate, like, and still lead you to the homestead in Janthir Wilds, right? Like, are these going to be separate things? Or are the doorways bound to the homesteads? Because I would love to see different doorways, no matter if I'm getting a different homestead or not, right? I would love to be in order. Like, while this is an amazing doorway, it looks really cool, right? It's visually really impressive, and it'll be interesting to see if this just pops up for us or if this pops up for like anyone. Like, I think this is going to be based on like just party members, because you can conjure this doorway because the party members are allowed to come into your homestead, right? So I guess this is going to be like phased out to just your party members, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. But yeah, it'll be really cool to see different doorways. I would love to see different doorways. It's something that ever since I saw this, it was just like, man, I would love to see different things in there. Even different color swaps of this. Different colored trees, different colored like door color inside. Like something. Give me like red flowered. Like give me a Nios themed one where you have like white trees with red leaves on top, and then there's like red inside, right? Or something like that, right? Like something that looks different. Would be really cool to see.
And you can also use that to invite your friends over. Once you're there, you'll find all of the gathering
so one point, and I don't know if people can let me know in the comments. So as she runs around on her Warclaw, it looks really fast. It looks like it's much faster. I don't know if this is going to be a feature of like, hey, in your homestead, all your mounts are really fast or something. Because I know that the Warclaw is slower in World vs. World than it is in PvE, but I think this is even faster than it is in PvE. So it'll be interesting to see if this is like part of the mastery line, or if this is part of just like, hey, in your homestead, your Warclaw is really fast, right? So, but I really love this. Like, as you guys see the movement, like kind of watch that. It's really fast, so it's really cool.
You'll find all of the gathering notes from your old home instance. Your home instance isn't going away, but you can just choose to gather them here now. You get a super cozy house, which gets expanded with more rooms as you level up in Janthir Wilds. But besides this, there's also a lot of land around your house that you can also decorate. There's a mount stable where you can pet your mounts, and there's different refineries for crafting materials. You can even find your other characters if you lock them out here. You can talk to this NPC to change the time to day or night whenever you want. I usually prefer the day, but the Aurora Borealis on this map makes me want to put it on night all the time. It is so gorgeous. The house
So I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. So this was something that I talked about before. I talked about two things when homesteads were first introduced. I talked about day and night cycle, and I wanted to kind of be able to change. And it sounds like this was something that was only recently added, because this was not talked about early on, like in Phil's article and stuff. Like the things we've seen before, they didn't I don't think I've seen this NPC before where you can change your day and night cycle. I love that, right? Like I love that. Okay, super big fan of it. But, and you know, again, I like to be constructive in my criticism. There's two more times of the day that we're missing, which are dusk and dawn. And you might think, well, that's, you know, part of day and night or whatever. It's really not. It's actually like in Guild Wars, visually, like if you guys have ever been during dusk and dawn in any of the maps that the weather change, the time of day change affects it in a big way, you can actually see differences. You can actually see that dusk and dawn look different, and it kind of changes like the whole look of the map. It doesn't look like day or night. It's very like an in-between thing, and I would love to see that, like having a sunset out when we, you know, to the right over here where the water is. I would love to see during sunset or sunrise or something, having that there if I'm trying to take like really cool pictures or something, be able to set to those. So here's my, you know, I don't know how hard it is to implement that. I don't think that would be super hard, but I would love to see that adding not just day and night, but also dusk and dawn. And also, like, if you have fishing in the game, you know, if you're adding like, I don't know, you can go fishing in your homestead, having fish that only spawn during dawn and dusk, and giving us accessibility to those more easily, because I know that that's kind of a little bit of a concern for fishers out there, because dusk and dawn go by so quickly, and if you don't get the fish you're looking for, but maybe having at least in your homestead, be able to just have it permanently on dawn or dusk, and just kind of say, oh well, I'm gonna fish all my dawn and dusk fish right now, like I don't, you know, whatever. So that's kind of the one thing. And the other thing is weather effects, and I have talked about this before. I would love to see this. I would love to see a snow effect, a raining effect, you know, like let me change what the weather is like in there. With Secrets of the Obscure, they started doing, you know, the one weather effect that we had was seeing all of those red petals go around. You know, let me have some leaves that fly around. You know, we see this in Janthir Sentry. We see the like leaves kind of falling. Give me that as an effect. Give me like that as an option to have. To kind of change my homestead, like if I want to permanently raining in my homestead because I want to have a cozy cabin in the woods during the rain, and I want to decorate my cozy cabin and just kind of sit there and have it rain outside and kind of hear the raining sounds of rain outside or something. You know, it'd be nice. I would like that. Or even have it snowy if I want to go around and put snow everywhere, but actually have it snow on my map. That would be really cool. So those are my two things that I would like to, you know, you know, I don't know if Arena is listening to this. You know, I would be very impressed if they are, but that would be something that I would love to see. I don't know. Again, I don't know how hard it is to implement, but that would be my, I guess, constructive criticism to that. So
For the day, but the Aurora Borealis
that looks
map
beautiful, by
makes
the
me
way.
wanna
Doesn't that
put
look
it on night
amazing?
all the time. It is so gorgeous. The house you get is super cozy, and of course you can put down decorations to make it entirely your own. The tools for decorating are easily my favorite part of homesteads. You can freely move decorations around, rotate them, scale them up and down.
Jesus, look at
It
that
is
giant
very
one.
intuitive, but also incredibly powerful. Before I knew it, my house was turning into a place where I could genuinely see myself spending hours with my friends, and I quickly lost track of time decorating. I made a nice living room, a cozy cellar, a bedroom, a greenhouse, and of course, you can also decorate the land outside of your house. I put down some trees to make a forest, and then I made this nice campsite to spend the evenings. I found this little island and
This is cool
repurposed
right
some
here.
walls and pillars to build a bridge to it. While you're decorating, you can actually turn into a bee, which lets you freely fly around. This is super handy when you're building something big like this. I love difficult jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2, and it was kind of cathartic to make my own jumping puzzle after all these years. The decoration tools made this super easy, because you can just float stuff wherever and scale it to exactly the perfect size. The sky really is the limit with these tools, and I cannot wait to see all of the things that the community will make. I'm gonna be spending so much time checking out your homesteads on my stream. Alright, that was it for this early look at homesteads. Janthir Waltz comes out on August 20th, and I will, of course, be streaming it. Maybe I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and happy decorating.
Alright, so that was really cool. I'm gonna turn off the sound here, so thank you again to Laranity for doing that. Super fun. Yeah, so you can scale different things. We've already known about this. I really love the little bridge that she comes up with. She builds like this really cool bridge to this little island that you have there. There's like a little island, and she builds like a bridge, which is really cool. And you can turn into a bee. I wonder if we're gonna see these bees like as enemies or like more often being used in some shape or form. Not sure. But yeah, so you can kind of, and she talks about like making your own jumping puzzle because you can scale and move things around and whatever and make them difficult, which is super fun. You know, it's very interesting. I really like it. I think there's a lot of possibilities. People are super creative, especially the Guild Wars 2 community. They're so creative. I mean, the jumping puzzles that they have built so far with what we already have in the guild, you know, decorations stuff, like that's already available, but we're getting 800 different decorations right off the bat with the housing, with the homesteads. It's going to be crazy to see what people are coming up to. For me, I've talked about, like, I'm not going to do something like this intricate where I make like a jumping puzzle. Maybe at some point. I don't have any plans to do this early on, but there's going to be a couple of streams probably where I'm just going to sit down and we're going to have like a chill stream where I'm just going to make like a homestead and build like a homestead or something, and make, I don't know, build a temple for all you guys to worship me. I don't know, just kidding. But you know, there's going to be some, I think I'm going to spend some time in there to kind of build. So she built like a little ramp here for the roller beetle to ride up on. So it's really cool. So thank you to Laranity and ArenaNet for doing that. That was super fun. I really think that's it's just amazing. I think this is really cool, super fun. I'm very excited to see what people come up with, and yeah, and so we have that, and then now to the last video. So I will, like I said before, this is by Bloom, and just so you guys know, this is super spoilerish. So for those of you guys that don't want to see all the visual spoilers and stuff, I mean, we've kind of talked about some spoilery stuff. It's not been super spoilerish, but you know, this is going to be like the most spoilery that you guys will see. So let's kind of go through this video here for you guys. So hey, can I get rid of this like permanently? Does this look like, okay, perfect.
Hot minute? Am I a hot minute? I mean, like, over an entire year. Sorry about that. I'll talk more about where I've been and what my plans are for the channel at the back end of this video, because for now, I've got some pretty exciting stuff for you all today that I'd like to just dive straight into, to be honest. As the title states, I was able to get about 2 hours of hands-on time with the upcoming expansion for Guild Wars 2, Janthir Wilds. I was initially invited to this hands-on session for my coverage on the Skill Up YouTube channel, which is where I do all my content creation full-time. Obviously, though, I'm a big Guild Wars 2 fan, and I've got a lot to say, particularly when it comes to stuff that only Guild Wars 2 players would be interested in. So I asked ArenaNet if it was okay for me to do some more in-depth coverage here on my personal channel, and they said yes. So yeah, got heaps of stuff to talk about here. Everything you see here is my own recorded footage. If you want to go into this expansion completely blind, then obviously don't watch this video, though you can probably just minimize this tab and listen to me yap if you want to hear my thoughts without the visual spoilers. So the first thing I noticed was that this is in fact a continuation of the storyline kicked off in Secrets of the Obscure. ArenaNet actually began this tour by being very forthcoming about their shortcomings with that expansion, particularly when it comes to storytelling. It was really nice to see them so candid about that, and I get the sense that they've really committed a big effort to avoid those same criticisms in Janthir Wilds, with a story that's a lot tighter and smaller in scope, though I didn't play enough of it to really comment as to whether or not they've succeeded. The setup is that Tyria is looking to form a sort of United Nations alliance to defend against future threats, and part of that is looking for a certain wizard who has run away to Janthir. But you probably know everything that you need to for the story from a previous blog post, so I won't talk too much about that. The expansion then wastes no time in shuttling us to the first map and meeting the lowland Coden. I kind of imagine they'd be hostile to to outsiders, but they've caught word of our heroic deeds, so they're actually quite welcoming. ArenaNet did confirm that despite their detail, they are not a new playable race. Apparently they've actually toyed with this idea, like they really wanted to make it work, but they just couldn't, which honestly is fair enough. But immediately it's clear that...
So I'm gonna pause it here because there was nothing. I mean, you guys can kind of watch the video yourself. Like this is the kind of first instance or whatever, right? We kind of get to see the little outpost here or whatever, right? You guys can kind of watch it and give me your impressions if you want to. I like it. I think it's beautiful. But the most important part here is that that he talks about how that ArenaNet played with the idea of having playable races, having new playable races. Specifically, they played with the idea of having the Coden be a playable race. So apparently, maybe a new playable race is still on the table. It seems like ArenaNet is still open to the idea, but it seems like they couldn't make it work, whether that was like technical difficulties or if this was like time constraints or what it was. But just so you guys know, this might be hope for you guys that have been hoping for a new playable race. Maybe Tengu will still be coming at some point, who knows. Anyways, so let's kind of move on.
Race. Apparently they've actually toyed very different vibe to this expansion. It's all just really chill. Like there isn't an immediate world-ending threat or even really any clear antagonist from the get-go, which is a pretty stark contrast to the beginnings of literally every other expansion where you're thrown straight into the conflict. It opens to a serene forest landscape accompanied by a very Valheim-esque string-based soundtrack. It was really lovely. Like the soundtrack sounds very different to anything else we've heard from this game, I think. The environments do look great too. They've mentioned a couple times already that it's inspired by places like Iceland, and that totally comes through, particularly with the stunning aurora borealis that appears in the night sky. Notably, there's a lot less man-made stuff going on here. It's like 80% natural landscape from what I can tell, which again feels quite refreshing given Secrets of the Obscure didn't have a lot of that. To help navigate the map, we then hop on our War Claws. So as you likely know, in Janthir Wilds, the War Claw mount from World vs. World is getting a bit of a revamp to be a more functional open world PvE mount. I've always really liked the War Claw. I'm kind of partial to the...
So we see a little bit. So he talks about, let's kind of review what he talked about. So he talks about the chill vibe. We've heard this in the articles, and you can kind of see it now in the video, right? Like he's in the village. He's kind of talking to the Coden here, and it seems all very chill. There's no, like, you don't really deal with any enemies right off the bat. But then you know, he's in the city and he kind of looks around and there's like a lot of things to see. It's very vertical, a lot of updrafts, a lot of like nature-y stuff. He says that about 80% of it is just kind of nature. He jumps, this is the second map, right? We've talked about this, Janthir Sentry, where there's a lot of things happening here with the Titans and stuff, but again, not a lot of man-made stuff. We're gonna apparently face off against some White Mantle and stuff. But then they go into this is the little arena labyrinth thing that I've talked about, where you have to go around on your Warclaw and you have to like throw your spears against different targets, and that's how you kind of advance through. Work together to destroy other targets while mounted on your Warclaw. So that's like one of the events that we kind of see here. You jump around, so that's really cool.
It's got a really cool kit in World vs. World with its spear throw to dismount enemies and the chain pull to tear down gates. Always thought it'd be a really cool fit for PvE, and honestly, it's actually even better than I thought, to the point where I can actually see this being my favorite mount in the game. So we knew that it was getting this double jump ability. Immediately when I read that, I was hoping it'd feel like Torrent from Elden Ring, and yep, it totally does. My group was actually led by Nick Hernandez, one of the leads on Guild Wars 2, and he actually confirmed that that was the main inspiration for Warclaw's traversal, which is very cool. Thing is, this isn't just like a linear vertical hop like I expected. You don't get just one hop, but up to 3, and it actually works kind of like a trampoline, where your jump height scales with fall distance. You can actually see in my gameplay here, while I was screwing around in Divinity's Reach, that I can almost maintain sustained air time if I had just the slightest elevation to jump from. This was really surprising to me, and the fact that you've got that alongside the short distance dash with the dodge key makes this a super versatile mount that sort of combines the the Raptor, Springer, and Jackal in one, but those are still faster in each of their use cases. What that means though is that if you're a new player and you've just jumped in with Secrets of the Obscure, I think you'll comfortably cover all bases when it comes to traversal if you've got just this and the Sky Scale. So yeah, was really impressed by the Warclaw. In some ways, it almost feels like a brand new mount, far more so than the minor additions that Secrets of the Obscure brought to the Sky Scale.
So that's really cool that he kind of talks in depth about, and you guys kind of heard this, but he talks in depth about how this is, you know, how it feels. The Warclaw feels really good, and it feels almost like a new mount that you have, kind of combining the like Springer up jump with like the long, you know, the dashy jump of the Jackal with the like long jump of the Raptor. It's kind of like an all-arounder, which I really think the Warclaw fits into, being that it's kind of like when you think about mounts, right? Like you think about like a big kitty cat riding, like, you know, a lot of games have like horses, like the core mount, right? But like I feel like a game like this has like the Warclaw would be like the core mount kind of, and then spreading out from there. Like I felt the Raptor never really felt like this is the core mount. It kind of felt like they're all very specialized in the way that they do, right? Like the Raptor has the long jumps, you know, the canyon jumps, right? The Springer has the high jumps. The Sky Scale flies like a helicopter. The Griffin is more of like a jet, right? Like we've talked about this so much. The Beetle is the racing one, right? Like the Jackal is the one that kind of teleports and moves up like vertical spaces a little bit better than the Raptor does and stuff. But the Warclaw feels like all around, and I think with the advancements and the upgrades and the masteries that we're getting, it feels really really good to use, and I think I'm going to be sticking with the Warclaw for a lot of these. So
far more
for
so
like
than the minor
my
additions that Secrets of the Obscure
game
brought
time
to the Sky Scale. You also unlock both the Warclaw and Homesteads very early on in the story, which is awesome. I mean, you don't need to do any lengthy collection like the Sky Scale or Siege Turtle. You can see here one of the first missions was defending this Warclaw as we guided it to a nearby village, and it's literally unlocked right as you finish that. Please excuse my gameplay, by the way. It was like 3 a.m. for me, so I was a little delirious, and I really wanted to play exclusively with the new spear skills, so I was still getting the hang of things. On that note, we should probably talk about the spears a little bit. You've probably read the latest updates to the spear weapons after the feedback from the beta, and yeah, a lot of that was actually already implemented here, which was cool to see. The Revenant, for example, got a lot of widespread criticism during the beta with its slow animations and lack of condition damage outside of Torment. Pleased to report that it feels way better now, at least in terms of feel, though obviously I can't comment on actual performance. I guess I never really shared my thoughts about the spears, so what I will say is that I think they're the most fun weapons we've ever had in the game, and it's not even close. Like, I love the internal mechanics of the Ranger Spear, the Thief, the Revenant. The giant spell effects on the Elementalist are insane, and the Mesmer and Necromancer's toolkit feel really super fluid. I mean, the fact that these are here on launch as opposed to Secrets of the Obscure, adding the new
so he talks about the spears. It's really cool to kind of see that these changes are already implemented for the press release. So it sounds like a lot of the changes that we've heard about, they've already settled on. They've already implemented those, which is good, right? And we also get to see, as you guys can see down there, we got icons. So you guys can kind of look at those icons a little bit. They look really cool. As always, the icons are really clean, very nice. They're kind of a step away from the original ones, I want to say. But there's nothing wrong with a little bit of change, you know. So because these don't look as artistic as they look more like practical in the sense that they look. But yeah, anyways, so changes are there.
Weapons months after is also fantastic. It's going to make the whole experience feel immediately fresh. Really can't wait to play with these again. On the topic of combat, one of the concerns that I, and I think many players had coming from Secrets of the Obscure, oh my god, that name is a mouthful, was enemy variety. I mean, we spent that entire expansion cycle fighting almost exclusively Cryptus. Given I wasn't a fan of them from the get-go with their visually noisy designs and familiar movesets, I got pretty tired of fighting them very early on, and by extension got pretty tired of all the content in that expansion very quickly. It seems to me like that might be less of an issue here. The first map had a bunch of wildlife to fight, like wolves, harpies, and the lowland Coden themselves, engaging in some friendly competition. The second map is where a lot of those titans we've been hearing about were roaming around, though I like their designs far more than the Cryptus, but it also seems like there's a healthy population of white mantle to fight there as well. I'm not
So this is confirmation of White Mantle. We weren't sure if we're going to be facing White Mantle, but we are facing White Mantle. So White Mantle are part of the expansion. This has been now confirmed. That's going to be interesting because I don't think we really see any of the White Mantle in these videos. But his concern about the repetitiveness of cryptas, and we're exclusively fighting cryptas all the time during Secrets of the Obscure, and that's all we really fight, is super valid. It's something that has been echoed through the community many a times, myself included. I mean, I'm very easy to please when it comes to like those types of things like combat. Like I don't look for super complex enemies and things to do and always a variety and stuff. But yes, always fighting cryptas was something that, it's like, not only are we throughout the maps and the story just fighting cryptas, but then also the rifts and convergences were just cryptas over and over and over and over again. And then going into Nios was just like more cryptas and more cryptas and more cryptas. It was just cryptas, right? And they didn't have enough really different models and different abilities and different things to make it feel varied. It just felt like the same enemies over and over and over again. So it's not, so he's saying it kind of feels like there's a kind of a variety. The first map, again, because the first map doesn't have a pressing overarching meta event or big world boss or anything like that. There's no like, oh my god, you need to defend the village from this and this and whatever. So there seems to be a lot of like wildlife and those types of things. Like there are going to be other the events are going to be varied enough because there's not really just cryptos are invading kind of thing, right? It's like it's going to be other things that we're going to see. So
around.
Really nice. I like that.
Full fighting titans of various shapes and sizes like the Cryptus, but overall, it does seem like the story is set up for us to fight a lot more than just them. That's a good segue into talking about the events, which I know a lot of you are probably curious about. ArenaNet set our expectations with a previous blog post explaining that the first map has no large-scale meta event chain, something that pretty much every new map has had since the core game. I think the only exception being like Grothmar Valley. So that's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, we've grown very accustomed to having these huge events to keep returning to for big rewards, and not having that might mean less reason to revisit.
So I want to kind of stop. We're going to go back to what he's talking about. Again, you can kind of look at the ranger skills down there, the ranger icons down there. You can kind of see a little bit, throughout the video, you guys can kind of see it. But yeah, so we know about no big meta event. It's been reiterated many a times. We know about the titans that we're going to be fighting. We're going to get a little bit more detail about that. But what I want to point out here is the verticality of this map. Like, look at this. Look at how far down this goes. You have like birds flying above. And at first I thought, I'm like, oh, we can't go down there. But you can actually see if you look a little bit further down, like you can see you can go down there, right? So it's a very vertical map. Even the first map is super vertical. There's a lot of like waterfalls and stuff. It looks like the Coden village is way up on the cliff.
Reason to revisit the map. On the other hand, I think often maps can feel like they're designed around the meta event with not a lot of reason to explore outside of it, and the meta event can even sometimes get in the way of exploration when events are closed off during it. As much as I love the massive hordes of players that defines Guild Wars 2, the smaller stuff throughout the core game is actually what I have more fond memories of. I mean, I've recently been working on full map completion, and yeah, it's been a very refreshing change of pace to not have a huge meta event hanging overhead. You're just jumping into smaller events with other players, taking the time to soak in the world and dialogue. The first map.
So this is super interesting, and it's something that is very funny to me because I while I do understand the sentiment, I can't, I can't really say that I have that same sentiment towards what he was talking about. So he was talking about how, the first map feels like one of the core maps where you go in and you kind of do exploration, you kind of you know, this is your first time around Tyria and, you know, a lot of the lower level areas. Like, this is Metrica Province, and there's not, like, there's a world boss on this map. It's very isolated into the corner, right? But there's no overarching, like, thing. Yeah, there's, like, isolated, like, inquest camps and things happening, you know, whatever, different events and stuff, but it's very, like, very chill throughout. And he kind of compares the first map to that, and he says, oh, it kind of feels good to go back there because it's kind of a change of pace, because it's been recently that, you know, for many or for most of the expansions, it's now most of them have like a pressing world boss or meta event or whatever, right? But it's super interesting to me because I don't really have that sentiment, because as you guys know, I've made like 200 to 300 characters now in the game, and I delete characters all the time, and make new ones just so I can go through the game again and just kind of level up and stuff. So I'm in the core maps all the time. So you know, I want to say that I spent probably half of my time in like end game maps and half of my time in like core maps. You know, I kind of spend like half and half. So for me, I don't like, I get the sentiment, I get where he's coming from, but I don't feel the same way because I already do this. But I do that because I enjoy those maps. So I feel like, based off what he says, I feel like I'm really gonna enjoy the first map, because if it feels like a core map that I enjoy the core maps, just because they don't have these huge events, and there's not always like a pressing, like, you have to do the meta event, you have to follow the string of events going on to get to somewhere, right? It's not a Dragon's Stand, it's not a Dragon's End, it's not one of those, right? I enjoy that. I love exploration. I love, you know, I tell, like, you can kind of see in the video, he like looks up. I tell people all the time, like, go around the game world and kind of look up a little bit, look up and see, because they've done such a great thing with the game world and stuff. And a lot of people just kind of tend to look to the ground, and you know, I'm like, just look around, kind of take in the world. There's a lot of details to see. There's a lot of things to enjoy around. And yeah, so it sounds really like the first map is going to be totally up my alley. It's going to be something that I have been wanting to see, you know, be implemented for a long time, kind of like go back to how the core game is. But he does voice the issue of replayability. Again, we talked about this a little bit. What's the reason to go back to those maps, right? The reason why him and a lot of people like him, a lot of people that are veterans, a lot of people that have played this, don't go back to core maps, is because there's really no reason to, right? You make better gold in newer maps and in strike missions and ratings and dungeons and fractals and all of those instant endgame stuff, right? Like, you make more materials and resources and all these things. Like, you can get a lot more doing those maps and doing those meta events. What's the reason to go back to these core maps, right? Just exploring those. Well, you do that a couple of times and then you're like, well, I've seen this. I know what this looks like. I don't really care for this, right? For me, it's like, I can go through an area 15 times and be like, wow, this is still cool. I still love this, whatever, right? But I'm an outlier. I'm not you know, I'm different in the way that I consume the game. So the question still is, like, what's the replayability of that first map specifically, you know? And Janthir Sentry has the world boss, so people will be going back to that, but, you know, what's the replayability value
Much as I
there?
love the massive hordes of players, smaller events with it facilitates that kind of playstyle. Like Grothmar, there seems to be a diverse range of events across the map. For example, one of the ones I did was this little dance circle with the lowland Coden, where you needed to keep up with their moves and it'd get progressively faster. It kind of worked like the Dagda yoga thing in the Amnitas meta, but a lot more fun because there's a bit more movement involved. Then there was another one where we'd ride war claws around this maze, throwing spears at targets and pulling open gates. Not everyone's gonna love this stuff, but I think it's a nice change.
I love this. I love I talked about this. One of my big things for Guild Wars 2 for Secrets of the Obscure was the variety. There's no variety in any of the stuff that's happening. And it drives me crazy, because it's like, it was the same events over and over again, and then they have like, oh, rifts are the new thing. It's like, yeah, but they're the same thing, just defeating cryptos over and over and over again. You know, and then yes, in Amnitas we did get a couple of the yoga posing things and whatever. There was a couple of those, but they weren't enough to really make it feel varied. They kind of were just like, yeah, well, we want to, you know, they sprinkled a little bit in there, and it doesn't feel, you know, so having a whole map that's like that, again, that's like, and I love that he makes that comparison because I think Grothmar Valley, and I talk about this all the time, I think one of the reasons Grothmar Valley worked as well as it did is because of how varied the events were. It's a beautiful map on top of being super varied. Every hour you had new events happening, and every time a new event was happening, it felt different. Whether you had to shoot the targets or go into the derby, destruction derby, or go into the ooze pit, or do the effigy event, or destroy ghosts, or do the racing, or whatever it was, there was always something different to do. And it felt just so varied that even after many, many hours, people still enjoyed being on the map, right? There's a cooking event. There's the child hiding around the thing, which was part of the achievements. You know, it wasn't an event, but it was something to do, and it was all very different. You had a jumping puzzle. You know, we haven't seen a jumping puzzle added like in a long time. Like, what happened to jumping puzzles? They were a big part of Guild Wars too, and we haven't seen one of those. But Grothmar Valley had it all, right? On top of having like bigger bosses to fight and rewards and like, you know, things that you can gain and whatever, right? There was always something to do. So I really love that he gets to feel out of this map as in a Grothmar Valley map. I really hope that we're getting the same thing. But we do get a legendary boss to fight in the arena. So Barbed Veil, that's the spear master that teaches us, I guess, about it helps us with the Warclaw or whatever. Yeah, so apparently that is the boss fight. We're gonna see. This is what I was talking about, where you can sit. We're gonna see one lone person from the press tour sit in the audience and applauding the people. And I guess you get like a little effect down here based off of like how many times someone cheers for you or something. Again, I hate that we're getting way too much in this effects bar, but it's not like that's very important for us to see, I guess, you know, so it's not like, you know, it's whatever. But yeah, so this is happening as well. This is one of the events. This is like, I guess, the big event for that map with this legendary boss, Barbed Veil.
Non-combat mini games like this. One of the bigger events we did was this stadium showdown with a Coden. Actually a really fun encounter. I mean, the boss was constantly moving around the arena. It had multiple phases, gaining new abilities with each phase. There was this cool attack it did where it'd pick a player up and everyone would have to break the Defiance bar, otherwise it'd choke slam them into the ground and insta-kill them. This kind of mechanics popped up a few times in raids, but never in the open world setting, I think. So it was
So you guys can kind of see, so Nick, the ArenaNet developer that took these guys on the tour, so the little mechanic here is really, really cool. So Bloom talks about the different mechanics happening. There's different things going on, different phases, different things. Again, I like a varied battle rather than having just like a big HP sponge that just kind of stands there and you have to throw everything you can at it and it's whatever, right? And then sometimes the break bar happens and you do break bar damage and then you just do more damage, right? There's actually like things, it jumps around, different mechanics, different phases, right? Makes it interesting, keeps it interesting, kind of keeps you engaged. Really like that. I really love to see it. This battle looks super fun. Can't wait to do it. But then one of the mechanics is that it grabs one of the players, it grabbed someone, right? Break her Defiance for before time runs out. I don't know if there's a specific timer that we see somewhere. I don't know if it's the ring. I guess it's the ring around it. You have to break the bar, or she will slam that player into the ground and insta-kill them, which is super fun. I mean, it's really interesting. I think that's a really cool idea. Kind of keeps players engaged, right? Because this is not a world boss. This is not like, oh, you know, this is not supposed to be like a super hard battle, right? Like it's supposed to be like doable with like a few people that are doing this. But it might teach the players a little bit about break bar and a little bit about like evading and yada yada yada. So I really love this event. I think it's really cool. And then here you can see the one lone person that's in the audience cheering for the people. Travis B is out there cheering for the people. But there's people like Indigo. I think this is Indigo from the development team, and I earlier saw like Buffed, I think this is Buffed MMO or whatever is there, so you can see a lot of the developers and the press people in there. I don't know if this is Indigo from the developers, but it's really funny that Nick was the one that was being grabbed. I thought it was kind of funny to see. There's ArenaNet, there's another ArenaNet, Frosty ArenaNet, so there's ArenaNet developers in here. kind of hanging out with the press people.
Into the ground and insta-kill them. This kind of mechanics popped up a few times in raids, but never in the open world setting, I think. So it was really cool to see that here. It kind of acts as a way to teach raid mechanics to non-raiders, which I think is the intention. Really had a lot of fun with this event, and I'm praying it doesn't just fall over with a more coordinated group. Speaking of which, we were then led to a much grander...
So yeah, so they did talk a little bit about that. Finished on. So now they're talking about the world boss. We've talked about how you can spear it, walk around, right? We've talked about the mechanics, but he's going to talk about it in detail.
And an event
so
in the second map where we would fight against a giant titan. Now, the wording in the previous blog post saying that the first map didn't have a meta event kind of implied then that the second map would. So I figured that's what we were being led to. Well, to my surprise, that actually isn't the case. To be clear, as ArenaNet has confirmed to me, there is no meta event in the second map either. What there is instead is a world boss, like a core map style world boss, operating on a timer, etc. I think that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way, and yeah, I totally get that. What I will say though, is that this boss is really good and essentially feels like the final boss of a meta event, which, let's be honest, is kind of the best part of meta events anyway. I mean, there's a lot going on here. It's constantly throwing out high damage attacks that'll down you quickly. There's that iconic green stack mechanic that we've seen a lot of, but here there's actually multiple stack circles that you'll need to split between, with a new UI element to tell you the minimum number of players needed. With an uncoordinated group, this was really challenging. I mean, I don't even think we'd have cleared it if it weren't for the dev hacks helping us out.
So this is a traditional, just so you guys know, I'm going to interrupt a little bit here, but this is like a traditional rotting titan kind of deal. We've seen different titans. Different titans were based off of the different locations they were in. They would look different. And one of the ones, I think the ones that were sent to Maguma or whatever, were like the rotting ones. We know that this is kind of like bark, right? They're tree titans. And they have amber. In one of the articles, they talked about how they have amber inside of them. And it looks like this is like a rotting titan. So this is kind of what they looked like. I think they were three-legged. These are four-legged. But they have these like three big fingers on their like claw-like fingers on their hands or whatever, right? And so this is very close to what they looked like in Guild Wars 1, just so you guys know. But this is like the bark rotting tree version of the Titans or whatever. But yeah, so apparently this was a really tough fight. Even all of these people, I mean, this is not an organized group, right? But they're having a really tough time doing this. But he said, we talk about the new stacking mechanic right there. We can kind of see, I think, based off of what the symbol says, it kind of tells you how many people need to be there. So they need to have 3 people at least in this circle, I think is how that works. So we're going to have to kind of see how the new stacking mechanic kind of works. But he says that it's a very tough fight, and he's going to talk about it in a second, but they needed like help with the development tools in order to even like get through it or whatever. So
once we got it low enough, it went into an enraged state where it would continuously fling loads of high damage projectiles while protected by a defiance bar. Because of the damage pressure, you're incentivized to CC from range, and the best way to do that, as it so happens, is with the Warclaw chain pull. So I actually really liked this bit. I know some are rightfully skeptical about using mounts in combat. I mean, historically, it's just involved forcing players to jump on turtles and mash the slam button, or hop on their sky scales and mash the fireball key. Like, yeah, I mean, so far it's been pretty lame. The difference here, though, is that those projectiles the boss is flinging out can easily knock you off your Warclaw, so you're encouraged to constantly move around the boss and find safe spots to do that chain pull, since that roots you in place. It is a really...
Okay, so this is really cool. We saw the mechanic of them walking around on the sky scales and breaking them down by walking around and knocking it on the ground or whatever. And we also see Greer talk. You guys can't see it because it's blocked, but Greer actually does talk. There's a moment where he says, "Away from me." So I don't think we've ever seen the Titans speak. So they have some kind of speech that they can use. This implies that these are more advanced Titans, or there's something going on with these Titans. So that's very interesting because I don't think we've ever seen the Titans speak. And I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. So we'll have to see how that turns what
of the
that
fight.
does for the
Apparently, in
story.
the full release, you won't be able to break that bar until you kill the extra mobs spawned by the big Titan. I am also told there's another boss like this in another location that needs to be killed at the same.
So we have Greer here, but then they blurred out the other. There is apparently another the name even of the event going on, but there is apparently another world boss that needs to be killed at the same time in order for this to succeed. So Bloodstone energy, so he's draining the Bloodstone energy. Who knows what that other boss looks like? They're kind of keeping that a secret, but you guys can see it on the map. There's another one down on somewhere else on the other side there. So
Time, similar to Auric Basin or Triple Trouble. So yeah, this is a really engaging world boss that isn't just all spectacle, no substance. Really keen to see where the tuning of this lands at launch. I'm hoping it'll sit around the difficulty of like Dragon's End, but maybe that's wishful thinking. Given the quality of this world boss, I think it's just a shame that there isn't one in the first map, which ArenaNet did confirm. I think having a world boss there as well wouldn't interfere with that chill vibe in the same way that they don't really interfere with the core maps. So yeah, for that reason, I am a little concerned that the first map isn't going to have much of a reason to return to as this one does, but we'll see. A lot of it comes down to the rewards, so let's talk about some of those. I am very...
So rewards, we kind of see the spear. We've talked about some of the armor weapons as well, but we see this really cool spear. Can't wait to see. I don't think that's... It looks like the new legendary spear, right? Like it kind of has that vibe to it. I don't know if that's true or not. We see this other spear. We're going to see that in a minute. So there's going to be some really cool spear skins we're getting, whether this is the legendary or not. This might be the legendary precursor as well. We don't know. But it looks really cool. I like this back piece. I don't think we've seen this back piece before. Is this the precursor to the legendary back piece? I think so. This might be it. So look at this. I think this is an ArenaNet person, so they would have access to that. So I have a feeling that they're kind of previewing the legendary precursors here without saying much about it. So that would be really cool to see if that is true.
Let's talk about some of those. I am very big on...
There is another one right there by an ArenaNet partner. There's the Indigo is wearing the really cool armor, the really cool stained glass armor.
I mean, cosmetics are like 90% of the reason I do anything in any game. So obviously, I had to peek at as many of the cosmetics available with Janthir Wilds as I could. There's a bunch of unique weapon skins to go for, like this sick bear claw.
So this was really cool, this bear claw. So recently we've talked about a lot of people on stream and stuff. We've talked about having claw weapons, right? The discussion point always is that a lot of focus weapons have focus weapons have a lot of skins that look like either fist weapons or claw weapons or something like that, right? So we kind of talked about that, and I talked about this again recently in the stream. There was a skin added into the game called Koda's Claw, and you can find it if you Google, like if you go on the wiki, you can find Koda's Claw. It's a dagger weapon, and it looks just like this claw weapon, but it's actually purple. And that is in the game. It's just not available. There's no way to actually gain access to it, but it is in the game files. It is actually a skin that is available to look at, to kind of preview and stuff. But it looks like they're adding another skin that looks just like it, which is also a dagger skin. It's not a focus skin. This is a dagger skin that's a claw weapon, which is really, really cool. I really love this. So you can kind of look at the animation here.
Janthir Wilds as I could. There's a bunch of unique weapon skins to go for, like this sick bear claw dagger skin. No idea where you get this, but I'm hoping it's similar to those collections in Secrets of the Obscure.
Really, really cool looking at that. So again, like I said, this has a version that's you can preview in-game right now. It's called Koda's Claw. It's purple. really cool. I hope that both of these variants are that we can get both of them in the game.
Well, then of
Really
course
love
there's
it.
also 3 new armor sets. One from the Wizard's Vault, which is this cool hooded set. There's another from upgrading your Homestead, which is this heavy looking stained glass set. Very cool. And then there's my favorite, the Woad armor set. This is basically the armor that all the lowland Coden are wearing. It's this bony survivalist aesthetic, perfectly fitting for this expansion. Honestly, might be one of my favorite sets in the game. Just has a really sick silhouette, it gives you sick tattoos, there's 3 different appearances based on weight, which Secrets of the...
Okay, so that's really cool. I really love that. So instead of having this particular armor, so one armor is through upgrading your homestead, the other one is through the Wizard's Vault, and then this one is one that changes appearance based on your weight class, which I really love. I really like that. So it's a bony looking with tattoos, and it's really cool. It looks
The Obscure's
awesome.
armor was lacking, and it really does look excellent across all classes and races. The weird thing is, you do not earn this armor set from playing Janthir Wilds. It is earned exclusively from World versus World. This strikes me as very strange. I want to earn the new armor from playing the new content, not from a mode that hasn't released a new map in half a decade. Visual progression...
So that's the big issue, that last armor, that armor set that's super bony and stuff. Apparently it's only available through World versus World, which is very interesting that they're putting an emphasis on that. I know we're getting some updates. I mean, he was kind of saying like, oh, hasn't really seen any updates in a decade. There has been updates to World versus World, and you know, there has been a lot of changes to World versus World, but is that enough to incentivize having one of the, if not the most interesting armor set from the new expansion be exclusive behind that? Seems kind of iffy. I mean, maybe they're gonna add it as like a drop for like the world boss or something, where you can gain pieces through that or something later on. Like maybe they're gonna change their mind on some of this, because that, I do agree with him, like adding that to World vs. World is a little iffy, because it looks really cool, and I would love to use that on some of my characters. So I don't know, but anyways, so yeah, having that through World vs. World is interesting.
I mean, it's awesome that there's something to incentivize playing World versus World, but it seems like it'll be at the expense of Janthir Wild's replayability. And I think that's the only real concern I have going into this expansion, the chase, at least at launch. There's a new legendary spear and back piece, which is super exciting, but neither of those are here at launch, though ArenaNet did assure me that you'll have a couple collection steps to start working toward them. I think that...
So this is also interesting. There's again an event. Looks like this is the meta event that's being blurred out here because there's a world boss. So there's a world boss happening way down here, and then there's a world boss happening again up there. So it looks like on 2 sides of the map you're gonna have to fight whatever this meta event talks about. But we do know there's White Mantle here. These are spirits though, right? Like these are spirits of the White Mantle. And Gavril, we know Gavril is one of the White Mantle villages that they had out here. So we see spirits of these White Mantle. Seems to be that there's some kind of event going on with them or something, part of the story maybe, who knows. But yeah, so we kind of have
ArenaNet
that,
did assure me that you'll have
there.
a couple collection steps to start working toward them. I think the chase on the launch of Janthir Wilds is meant to revolve around...
So we see this is the mushroom. This is the mushroom stack, you know, that we saw, and the icy thing. You know, there's a lot of things that they kind of just randomly place to
the homestead. I
you
mean,
know,
you get materials for it from achievements,
try out
from
in
events,
Homestead.
from everything. And for what it's worth, homesteads are really great. And as someone very familiar with 3D software, I found the controls really easy to get the hang of. It's really good. Like, to that, I'm personally very keen to build stuff. The Warclaw really surprised me with how versatile it is. The spears are so much fun to use.
Okay, so that's kind of the end of it. He's kind of putting his last review on it. So thank you to Bloom for that video. Thank you to everyone that made these videos, ArenaNet, that let them show off these things. But yeah, so that's kind of my impressions on these things. So again, I don't, you know, I'm really looking forward to it. But yes, I think there's a replayability issue. There's going to be an issue about like You know, if one of the armor sets, which, you know, let's get real, you know, the end game content for Guild Wars 2 is fashion, right? And if one of those armor sets is only earnable, you know, out of the 3, one is earnable through World vs. World only, and one of them is through homesteads, and the other one is the only one that you can get through like the map progression and stuff, or through the vault. What are the rewards that we're getting? You know, you know, the vault I can do anywhere in the world. I don't have to be in Janthir Wilds. Homesteading, that's very limited to just being in that little instance, and it's very just like fluff stuff, right? It's not like actually content for the game so much as like a time waster, like something to kind of hold you over and do some like a side thing to do, right? It's not like Guild Wars 2 isn't built around being a Minecraft, right? Like stuff like that. So it's kind of like a side thing and doesn't have to do with the main map, with the core story, with any of these things. So there's a little bit of a concern for those things like replayability. What are the rewards that I can earn through the game? You know, what are the things that I can do in these maps that people can do that gonna keep them, you know, bringing them back? Like, is there things I can find even in the first map through sniffing out treasure? Like, can I get some kind of cool armor set or weapon set through that? Like, you know, is there a weapon set that's only exclusive to treasure hunters, you know, and is there a reason to maybe go around and opening all these treasures to get the whole weapon set? Something like that, right? Like, that's kind of my concern with that. But it's really cool seeing a lot of the things. I think this was a great preview. So thank you to Bloom for doing that and showing these things very in depth, very, very cool. So that's kind of the end of all of that for you guys. So I just wanted to give you, this is a very long video. I just wanted to give you guys my impressions on all of these things. I will be streaming Janthir Wilds. I personally am very excited for myself. Like I said, this expansion is aimed towards exactly kind of the stuff that I do. You know, where Secrets of the Obscure did a lot of lore and story and character and mysteries and secrets and whatever, all these things, right? The other side of the actual gameplay stuff that I do that isn't just those, like the gameplay stuff for me is not just stories, but the open world, hanging out, finding treasure, dungeon delving, you know, doing varied events, kind of hanging out, doing these things. I feel like I'm getting that with this expansion. So it's going to be super fun. Many people didn't really talk about the things that were in Janthir Sentry. A lot of people, a lot of these people that did all these articles and stuff talked about stuff that was happening in the first map, right? We get a lot of details on events that are happening there, but we don't get details really on what happens on the second map. So that's going to be very interesting to see as well. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to, you know, even like where the third map is. Because remember, we are getting a third map, and it's probably going to be coming with I think the first major release, right? Releases the first part of the map or whatever they're planning on doing with that. But it's, you know, we're getting a third map. Like, you know, what's that gonna entail? What's the actual enemy? Like, what's the end goal of the expansion, kind of? So it's gonna be super interesting to see, because one part they also talked about how the one dialogue box in the Bloom's video talked about how the lowland Coden aren't huge on magic. They're not huge magic users, and you can kind of see that in their culture because they're living in like these huts, right? And they're kind of hanging out, and you know, they're using spears and blah. They're more practical. They're like these hunters that live out in the wild, rather than these, you know, where the Astral Ward were these magic users with like the floating city in the sky, kind of, because that's, you know, pretty much what Amnitas was like. The different bastions was almost like the city, you know, that like floated up in the sky. So there's like this very polar opposite, but you know, we go back to things like the Eye of Janthir, right? And we know that the Eye of Janthir, I always like, well, maybe it comes from the Coden, but if the Coden aren't like magically inclined, what is really the origin of the eye? Are we going to really find out? Because we don't, you know, we heard about the White Mantle, we know that we're probably going to fight them, but you know, there seems to be a lot of things still in the dark about where the story is going, what we're doing and stuff. So I'm very excited. So if you've been hanging out with me for 2 hours, thank you so much, because we are at 2 hours. It's a long video, but thank you so much for hanging out. And like I said, I will be streaming on the 18th. We do have a giveaway going on right now for Janthir Wilds expansion code giveaway on my community tab. Just go on there. There's a post you'll see, talks about what's your favorite region. Just comment on that, what your favorite region is, even if you don't have one, whatever. Just comment on there. You will be entered. On the 18th, I will be streaming. I will be announcing the winner then. I will be streaming on the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. 20th and 21st will be expansion release. We will be doing map 1 and map 2, the story all the way through map 1 on day 1, and then map 2 on day 2. We will be doing map completion for map 1 on day 1, and then map completion on day 2, and then we're going to see how we can fit homesteading and world boss and you know, exploring the maps in like various different ways, working on the masteries, blah blah blah, in between all of those things. So make sure to follow me if you want to, or watch the streams after the fact, because they will be going live, or they will be going up on the channel after. But yeah, anyways, this video has been going on long enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys very much, and I will see you guys for the expansion very soon. Well, not the expansion. I will see you before the expansion, but the expansion is coming very soon, and I'm very excited. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But you guys will probably see me on the 18th next for the giveaway, and we'll talk all things like, you know, Janthir Wilds and stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be new news and stuff coming out. So I will see you guys for that. All right, thank you guys. Bye.